TOA community, welcome back everybody. Robert Linkle, trainingtheolderadult.com. I hope you're all doing well. This is a deep dive looking into the sit to stand, one of my favorite lifts. I think it's probably the most actionable lift that you can perform throughout your day. The average person during their 16 hours of being awake on average will perform over 100 different breaking of the hip hinging type patterns that include sitting down and standing up, multiple times. So looking at the research to this a little bit, two articles that really stuck out. This one here was in 2019, was a meta-analysis of the sit to stand, and this other one in 2018 looked at the effects specifically of what's being performed at the sit to stand, specifically the quads and development there. And both found that number one, the sit to stand made people much stronger and better at performing the exercise of the sit to stand. Specifically, through this 12-week program, they had 14 men and women ages 75 to 88 who went through a 12-week program of basically performing 48 repetitions over these per session 3 times a week, okay? And they would have them test on their quad strength using these fancy machines that gave them an output of how strong their quads were isometrically. So they weren't actually performing any reps of like a maximal effort to test. When they were doing the exercises to get stronger, they were doing quad extensions, I think, and leg press and maybe something else. I didn't see it. But basically they showed that short-term conditioning programs, basically like this, a 12-week program, made it better to perform the sit to stand. Specifically, their knee extension strength got very good, and the effort that they put in to perform raising and lowering their body from the seated position decreased. So effort went down, performance went up. The other meta-analysis looked at all kinds of different components relating to the sit to stand and found that it was a very viable exercise for anybody to perform to be able to maintain that ability, okay? Now, was it a good prehabilitation, if we're going to use that term, exercise? Yes. Is it a good stabilization exercise? Yes. What it didn't do was increase balance. People that were just performing sit to stands didn't actually increase their balance. It didn't reduce it, but it didn't increase it. Why? Because you're in a bilateral stance and you're really not doing a whole lot else where your body's in dispositions to want to fall over or be tilted or require an effort to create stability. You're in probably the most comfortable position you can be in, standing with both your feet right under you while you sit down and stand up. So not a big shocker to look at the research to suggest that sit to stands, good at performing sit to stands, get us better at that skill, get us really strong in the knees, reduce effort, improve performance. Now, if we do that with some changes in tempo, now we start to see the HVRT, the high velocity training component, come into this. We do that with some load, that's great. We can pre and post test the little 30-second sit to stand. You set your timer, you go for 30 seconds, sit down, stand up, you get as many as you can in 30 seconds. Your scores should be somewhere above, for the average male and female, 11 for females, 12 for males. On average is what you're shooting for. As you get older, obviously the score ranges are a little bit less, but we want to be able to do at least 11 for the ladies, at least 12 for the guys, okay? Now in doing that, we start to look at performance. This is from the Edge. They start to kind of break down the components that are included in this and the details, and they give you a little bit more on that chart. But the big thing that I really liked from this was the lower study participants score, the more likely they were to die in the next 6 years. It means the sit to stand, has a correlation of testing one's quality of life and how the trajectory of their life is scaling. That goes with grip strength too. There's a couple of others that are incorporated in this that, like, if you're not doing well here, your chances of living longer are not great. So, excuse me, we want to be able to get up and down from those seated positions, the chair, the car, the toilet, the lounge chairs, all those odd angle positions too to get up and down from. We want to be good at that. 2021 review, a Journal of Biology found that 5 times sit to stand test, a variety of the sit to stand challenge, is accurate indicator of functional mobility and independence. So how quickly can you sit down, stand up, sit down, stand up, sit down, stand up, sit down, stand up, sit down, stand up? That score there's an efficiency to that. as well. So not only just how many you do in 30 seconds, how quickly can you do 5? These are all power output tests, okay? And again, they go a little bit deeper into showing the scores that I already showed you in this chart. So this will be, a link to this will be in the description of this video. So you can download one of these, print it out, do your test, and then we're ready to dive deep into the sit-to-stand. So in performing this, specifically with load, there's a couple of different ways, that we can perform this. These boxes are great for this because they have multiple different heights on them that you can work with. Now we can hold a kettlebell, a dumbbell, sand bell, whatever weight, whatever load variation you want to use, doesn't matter to me. Where you hold it doesn't really matter either, especially in the beginning. I like to just have our clients hold it low because it's going to simulate their eventual deadlift mechanic is what we're gonna eventually get this to. So I'm pretty high as a test for me goes. My hip is about 4 inches above my kneecap, so I'm in a pretty safe, pretty effective position to perform this, which is good for overload because I want to start to manipulate some weight with this, right? Our feet, in this, again, we're working with aging pops. I'm a fan of, as long as we're not causing damage, go where it's comfortable. So do we have to have toes straight, shoulder width apart, 2 inches, 15 degrees? Maybe that's good for them. If not, just say, put your feet where you're comfortable. What I don't want are your feet together or in awkward positions. Like I'm gonna put this one over here and that guy over here. I want it to just be in a fairly comfortable position. I'm gonna hold the weight down between my knees here. And what I don't want to do is be vertical like I am right now. I want to be what we call advanced to the weight. Right now I'm behind the weight quite a bit. I want to advance my shoulders forward in front of the weight, okay? If I relax my arms, watch what happens. The weight swings forward, okay? Which means I'm actively pulling the weight back to me. If I'm too vertical and I relax my arms, it didn't go anywhere, okay? It just went down, okay? So that means I'm not advanced to the weight yet. Why do we want to do that? Okay, imagine me picking up a barbell or a heavy kettlebell off the floor. What position am I in? I'm in my deadlift position, right? Which is exactly what we want. Let me get a little more centered here. I know that's a component that everybody likes, so I'm not just hiding off screen. Okay, so advanced shoulders. I'm not worried about my knees being on beyond my toes or any of that. I'm just setting my feet where I'm comfortable, okay? My shoulders are gonna be in front of the weight, so if I relax my arms would swing, which means I'm actively pulling the weight back close to me, right? I have completely unloaded. That means the bench, the box in this case, has my weight, right? Now I'm gonna push my heels down and notice my toes kind of lighten a little bit. I'm good with that. You don't have to lift them up. I just want them lighter. They should be pushing through the center of their foot and kind of heavier on the heels, okay? So I'm gonna push down with my heels, I'm gonna push back with my butt, and I'm gonna push up with my head and chest. And that's gonna bring me all the way up into the standing position. Now from here, I'm gonna basically just repeat that exact same thing, but in reverse, okay? My microphone wires here. Same thing in reverse. I'm gonna push my hips back and kind of sit mid-foot as I lower myself down, and then I can gently return my weight to the bench. If I'm too vertical, there's gonna be nothing gentle about it. I'm just gonna fall back onto the box because I can't counter my body weight. So I wanna be able to 2 or 3 seconds, be able to control and unload my body weight onto this bench or this box efficiently, smoothly, comfortably, and then come back up by pushing my heels down, pushing my butt back, and driving my head up. But notice my arms are on, my shoulders are on, my upper body's engaged. It's not just dangling here. I'm on, right? And with each one, as I unload onto the box, the HVRT component, the high velocity resistance training component, is coming up a little quicker. You could see that in my tempo. I'm coming up quick, and then 3, 2, unload up quick, 3, 2, unload up quick. Every time I'm trying to come up, change that direction fairly quickly, a fast turnover, okay? So I'm getting strong, progressive overload, but I'm also getting some power training in teaching my muscles how to turn over fast. Type 2 fibers are firing, teaching me to get up off this box rather quickly. Eccentric strength being built, very strong, very stabilizing, being built on the way down to unload onto the box. So I'm getting a lot of really good value out of this. Holding the weight low, I can probably hold quite a bit of weight here. Okay, 20, 30, 40 pounds. We could pull pretty heavy. So let's do a couple of variables now that we could change. I could get a heavier implement, right? Or I could keep the same implement and just change the height in which I'm going to work. So now I'm going to go a bit lower. Now my hip is in line with my kneecap, and now I'm going to be working an extra 3 or 4 inches in my depth. So I've got to be forward in my good position. Yeah, there's quite a bit more work now for me to do to get down to this. That extra 3 or 4 inches made a big difference, okay? And now that I'm feeling the comfort, here we go. I'm going to come up quick, control 3, 2, 1, staying forward. You see my advance, up quick, 3, 2, 1, unload. So clients are now going to start to struggle a little bit getting out of the bucket, that bottom squat position. This is good. This is good overload, okay? Start to get stronger from there. What kind of variables can we change to this now? Well, now we can start to deload not just my body weight, but the weight itself. So at the bottom of the lift, you can set this down, unload it, pick it up. As I'm coming down, I'm going to unload my body weight, but also the weight itself. What I don't want to do is start having to bend over to get to it. So I might want to set this higher, or my heavier weights will be a little bit higher. We could do that. The other change we could make is with a lighter weight, I can start to manipulate where I'm going to hold it, okay? So if I just pulled 30 pounds off the floor, holding 30 here is going to be quite the challenge for me. And it's usually going to end with my posture failing. So I'm going to go all the way back down to like a 4-kilo kettlebell, like 9 pounds. And I'm going to hold here at my heart. Now I got to drive up out of this height. This is going to be challenging for me, okay? And then the number one mistake, because the weight's high, we're going to start rocking, okay? Because we're going to want to use that weight to our advantage. I got to stay forward. I got to hug that weight into my chest. Like I'm going to get shot out of a rocket. Tuck in here tight, drive up quick. 3, 2, 1, unload, up quick. 3, 2, 1, unload, up quick. Staying advanced to that weight, but staying on. That's really one of the most important pieces, I would say, is the upper body engagement. To make this a good full body lift and a functional lift is not to just let the arms dangle or put a sand roll around their neck and then their arms can do nothing. You want to have that upper body engaged and active as much as possible. You're going to target your quads, but the depth of the box, the lower you get, as long as you're not rounding your back, you are going to start to recruit some more glute. Now, we could also add to this by putting a mini band on above the knees. And so when you push the band apart, I'm going to recruit more of my abductors, my glutes. Glute max is always going to work with my hip extension. The medius and minimus aren't going to get as much work unless they're given a reason to activate. And in this case, they are extenders of the hip, but also really good at external rotation. So if I have a band on and I'm pushing out, I'm trying to externally rotate, but I'm not, right? I'm being met by the tension of the band. My feet are grounded to the floor, so they can't really rotate, but I can still manipulate them and engage more glute activation as I'm coming up. The negative to that is if the band is here, I can't hold a heavy weight low. So you could basically do a goblet with a mini band on, right? Or take the band off and then use your heavier weights down low. So which is best? Up to you, the coach, what the client needs. What do I personally like? I like holding the weight low because we can lift a heavier weight. And I find that to be more advantageous for the aging pop, is I need that overload. The goblet squat position is awesome. The problem with it, if I had to pick one thing, I'm just like, I don't love doing these because when you hold weight up in front of you, what is the counter to my weight up and in front? Where am I countering this weight with? Low and in back. So if I have any kind of lower back weakness or ailment, this could aggravate, okay? Which lends you to say, well, we should probably do those then. So this doesn't aggravate, it's not the weak link, and I get that, that's true. We'd want to do maybe a set or two with a weight here, and then maybe a set or two with a heavier weight down low. I'm totally good with that. We should get to a point where that goblet, component, if you can, on average, I don't know, 25 to 30 pounds would be fantastic. I mean, I'm talking fantastic. If you could do 25 to 30 pounds holding at heart height, okay, fellas, ladies, I would say 20 to 25 pounds, okay, somewhere in there. If you could hold in a goblet and do, 6 or 8 sit to stands with that, that's a good level of strength. It's not great, it's not like amazing, you're an elite level athlete, but it's really good, high quality strength. Because this is a hard position to hold weight, stand up, and sit down with good control without rocking, okay? That's a hard position to hold. Holding down here, probably double, okay? 40 pounds, 50, 55 pounds for the fellas, somewhere in there. Holding that weight low. I mean, we can handle a lot of weight in that position. And that, in turn, is the return, the value of why this is such a good lift. Now, you can do so with progressive resistance, bands under your feet. You're holding here, so as you stand up, it gets a little bit tighter and harder, and as you come down, it gets a little lighter and easier. All that's great, but the simplicities, okay, the simplicities of this lift is what makes it so effective, is that it doesn't have to be fancy. It doesn't have to take you into a realm where you're like, well, I have to go to the gym to be able to perform this. Oops. I have to go to the gym to be able to perform this. I have to, and that one's too high. Let me find my just right. Here we go. I don't have to go to the gym to be able to perform this. I don't have to have any special equipment. I can't do it because I blank. You have a chair, you have something that's heavier than what's normal, then go for it. You are good to go. These are really great components, as that one article suggested. If you're doing these on a daily basis as like a regular home protocol, it's going to help you. If anything, just produce some muscular endurance that will help you throughout the quality of your life, meaning throughout the daily activities required. My dad would be able to, I don't know, 50 plus. Let me say it this way. My dad's greatest gains over the last 2 years together was his ability to develop leg strength. And he nicknamed himself Legs of Steel because of it, okay? Because he got better at doing them in here, he was better at doing them at home. And so he started to practice on a regular basis out of his lazy boy, off the couch, wherever it was. Anytime he'd sit down, he'd stand up and he would do at least five sit down stand-ups before he went off to go do whatever he was going to do. And then when he came back and he was going to sit down and watch more football or whatever he was going to watch, he would do 5 more. And so at least 5 times throughout the day, he would get up and get down 5 times. Restroom, kitchen, wherever. It was probably more like 10 times a day, okay, if we're being real and how often he'd actually do this. And he would just do 5 sit to stands, 5 sit to stands, 5 sit to stands, to the point where it wasn't a challenge for him to get his own body up and down at least 5 times. We had our last holiday together was an Easter at my in-laws. And I have this awesome video, we've circulated it a few times, where he does a bunch of sit to stands. And I kind of jokingly, I'm like 49, 50, and he starts flexing. He probably did like 20 or 25. I mean, he was deep into this couch, deep sit to stands, and just crushed. It was just cranking out sets. And I'm like, look at my dad. Like 2 years prior, couldn't get out of a bed, a hospital bed that was at hip height, if not higher, right? And now this guy's doing that. Like, that's how actionable something this simple can be. We didn't do anything fancy. We just did it on a regular basis with progressive overload. And that carry to the rest of his life had drastic quality of life changes. I cannot stress it enough how valuable, how important this is. I hope you find value in it. If you have more questions on how to perform it, check out these articles. I've referenced quite a few in here. And the value of the sit to stand, as we said, I don't know if there's anything more life altering and life applicable than this one. All right, gang. Comments, questions, hit me up down below. If not, I hope you enjoyed this deep dive. And I look forward to seeing you in our next video. Until then, continue to fight your good fight against sarcopenia. Take care.